I'm for sure going to get canceled at some point. My goal is to actually create cancellation immunity by just consistently saying provocative things. That's almost like a vaccine. It's like the vaccine is like a dead, like a typical vaccine is like a dead end or weakened version of the virus that you inject in the body, and you build up antibodies because you sort of like introduced this thing and it kind of got used to it. So similarly, I consistently try to say provocative things so that any one thing does not stand out. Because what people hate more than anything is somebody who represents being good and then actually does something bad. And they're like, ha, gotcha. You tried to say you were good, but you're actually bad. And instead, if you're like, no, I'm not your role model, and no, I'm not perfect, I'm just going to say what's on my mind. And like, yeah, don't be, I said that other thing that pissed you off. I said this thing that surprised you. I said this thing that you thought was wrong or not the full picture of the story. By the 7th time I do it, you're going to stop having a response to it. You're going to write off in your, the people who get offended, which is a small, sensitive minority, they're going to like use up all their energy, basically, and they're writing off, which is exactly what I want. I'm trying to repel them away from my feed. Please unfollow me if you are part of the sensitive social media. And if you are part of the, well, actually, or how could you crew. And so as part of my strategy, actually, because look, if you're going to say something interesting, which is my goal, if I'm going to go on, so if I'm going to post something on social media, I'm going to try to say something interesting. Not everybody should just nod their head and agree and move on with their life. Some people should say, oh my God, this totally resonates with me. I totally agree. Some people should say, no way. I think, the opposite. Polarizing works. Now, I'm not being polarizing just for polarizing sake, but I do think about it. I don't pull punches. Like I'll word something in a spicy way rather than an unspicy way. I don't care. I'm having fun. I'm doing it for entertainment. And so, and I'm doing it for, like some of the growth. And so I am not afraid to get people's attention. I'm not afraid to cause a bit of a stir. And so, yeah, I've definitely seen that, like, it would be impossible to give a perfectly nuanced explanation of everything. It would take way too much of my time. I'm trying to tweet in 5 seconds and move on with my life, go do my other thing, and then check my mentions later. So I don't want to spend an hour giving an extremely nuanced description of something with both sides properly accounted for, all caveats and disclaimers included. No, that's boring to me. You took all the fun out of social media. The second thing is people who need that and demand that, to me, they don't understand the internet. Like, the internet was not built for people who are seeking that. They will be severely disappointed everywhere they turn on the internet if that's what they want. And so, so I don't find that nuance is what is rewarded in most places on the internet. Now, there are certain mediums where it's better. Podcasting, I think, is better because you can get into a little bit more and you can get a feel for, it's a long form discussion. Twitter is not that.
So you mentioned like trying to protect against getting canceled. Balaji has this theory, and I'll probably botch it in some respect, but he believes that everyone is going to get canceled at some point. Yes. Because everyone's messages and private messages are all going to come out at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What do you think? So I sort of view this, like I just look at the last few years, and maybe it's because as my following grew, I got, for every tweet I put out, you're going to get a bunch of people who just push a like button and move on. A few people who say, oh, this is really great. And a few people who say, oh my God, you're such an idiot. Or like, how could you? And so I guess the bigger you get, the more vocal that each one of those numbers goes up. And also, I think in general, there's been this movement of, I have this theory around this, but there's been this movement where who used to be influential was like the powerful people. The influencers used to have the power. And now the power has been turned over to the mob, the social media mob. The social media mob basically just sharpens their pitchforks and they run around waiting for who's the next person that we can attack. And attacking is very fun. And it's rewarding to them. And, most normal people don't do it, but the normal people, if you're a normal person, you're not actually one of those pitchfork holders, but you have 3 choices. Number 1, you disagree and you fight the mob. Well, I don't really want to fight, a 1 versus 1,000, fight. And, it's going to be painful. I'm going to lose and I'm going to get canceled. So I'm not going to fight the mob. Join the mob. No, I don't really want to join the mob either because a lot of energy, a lot of negative energy. And am I really going to spend most of my time policing random strangers on the internet? That seems like a huge waste of energy. So most normal people don't join the mob either. So instead they do like option C, which is you basically hide behind the bookcase. So you just sort of like, you don't stick your neck out there to say anything. And you also don't, you don't fight the mob either. You sort of just hope the mob doesn't come for you. And when you see it come for your neighbor, you're like, too bad. Like, glad it's not me. And so that's where most people go. Now, there is a new path. That's the path that I choose, which is trying to develop immunity. And that's what I said. Okay, how do you develop immunity? You have to be consistently provocative. If you're inconsistently provocative, you yourself don't have the thick skin, but also people's reaction will spike, like a glucose spike for somebody who's never had glucose before, or alcohol for somebody who's never had alcohol before. You have no tolerance built up. So you got to be consistently provocative. The second thing is you want to be truthfully polarizing. So you want to say what's true for you. Don't just say random shit that you don't like. This is like not what's on your mind. No, you want to be the type of person who speaks your mind. And when you speak your mind, there are going to be some people who actually agree with you. They were too afraid to say it, or they said it and they didn't have as big of a following, but they will actually love you more. So for every one weak fan you lose, it's every 5 weak fans you lose, you gain one super fan. So one super fan who says, wow, he did that. And then as they see people attacking you, they want to come to they really want to defend you. Now they may not publicly defend you, but they actually like align with you because they're like, that's wrong that they're getting beat up for this thing that I also believe. So I think I would trade 5 weak fans for one strong fan every day of the week, because a strong fan is worth a lot more. Again, you could see this in Trump and many other, public figures that are polarizing. Joe Rogan, people like that. So, okay, what's next? What is it? What are the other things that you need in order to like build this cancellation immunity? You need thick skin yourself. So you cannot let it actually like affect your day-to-day mindset. Your happiness and your mood. If it's going to do that, not worth it. Don't do it. The second thing is don't backtrack, don't apologize, don't give in. And because every time you apologize, you think you're basically saying, okay, mob, back away. I apologize. Give me my life back. And instead what happens is the mob says, ha, guilty. You admitted it. Shame. It's like that scene in Game of Thrones with like, shame, you got to march down the streets naked once you admit guilt. And you thought life was going to get better by saying sorry. And actually life gets worse when you say sorry, which is really unfortunate because, that should be the way the world works. But if you just watch it play out, that's not how it works in practice. So you have to be willing to just say what you say, move on with your life. Let them stay fixated on it. Don't come back and argue. Don't explain. If you're explaining, you're losing. Don't get in a fight about it. The last one is be independent, because if you're reliant on an employer and you say anything provocative, or anything you say is wrong, or some photo comes out of you from 10 years ago, or some tweet comes out of you from 10 years ago that you said something stupid, high chance you can get fired for it. So the best people are like a Joe Rogan, who's an independent person, who's independently financially free. Now, not everybody can do that, but those are the things you need if you really want to be immune from cancel culture. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody wants to do it. Some people think cancel culture is a great thing. And actually at the start, it seems like a great thing, right? When you see somebody get canceled for doing some heinous thing, you're like, yeah, you deserve that. But it's sort of like a slippery slope, because the mob decides what's okay and what's not okay. So at the beginning, it's like, we all agree, well, this person who's being openly racist or was like, a child predator or whatever, like, yeah, for sure, I have no problem canceling them. But then the surface area of what's acceptable starts shrinking, and it's like being on an ice rink and the ice starts cracking all around you, and then you're left standing with 2 toes on this tiny piece of ice before you fall in. That's what's happened, right? Because now if you you say the word he and she, and like, it's like, well, why are you gendering things and people? It's like, whoa, like, okay, so that's off limits. And you can't say like, I said a list of my favorite books, or I do this thing, I do 5 Tweet Tuesday. I just curate 5 tweets I like from Twitter, right? Oh, I follow 10,000 people on Twitter, a large mix of men, women, every race, every color, every gender, whatever you want. And 10,000 people, I have the sample size, trust me. So I pull out 5 tweets that I thought were interesting, and I share them on with my newsletter. People like it because Twitter's a noisy place. So if you just pull out 5 interesting things, it's like, cool. It's like a curation service. And so I figured out all 5 were from either mail or like meme accounts last week. And somebody emailed me, said, I went through your last 3, emails, and not one was a woman. I know you follow women because you follow me on Twitter. Sure. Like, do women not say interesting things? Surely somebody is interesting, like, do better. And I was like, whoa, like, first of all, I don't know you is a really rude, weird way to speak to somebody that you don't know. Do better. Like, okay, for you, like, I don't know you. Why do I need to do what you think is better? Secondly, like, these are 5 tweets I found interesting. Like, get over it. Like, even if you're making a fair point, which I think it is a totally fair point, to just attack somebody like that and just come out so strong, throwing a punch, I just found it so strange. It's like, I would never speak to somebody like that in real life or on the internet. And so anyways, what I found is that like the surface area of what's okay is just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And eventually, like Balaji says, as these leaks happen, like Facebook got hacked and a whole bunch of phone numbers got leaked. When DMs get leaked and emails get leaked and text messages get leaked and your camera roll gets leaked, it's all over. Like the cat's out of the bag, the can of worms is open, the genie's out of the bottle, can't be put back in. And all of those things are inevitable on some time horizon. It might be 5 years, might be 15 years, we don't know, but it's something like that. And these leaks will happen.
Could you imagine? It's going to be crazy. And the point about, sending that email, I feel like today more and more people are judging others for not even what they do, but sometimes what they don't do. Like, for example, the black squares on Instagram. People were getting mad at people for not posting a black square. Well, how could that be? Like, what if you don't use Instagram? And
it's the silliest thing, because once you bully somebody into doing it, oh, you need to do this. Of course, they don't genuinely feel that way. You have like forced an apology or forced an activist stand. Like, how silly are you to think that is a positive thing in the world, to force somebody into faking something, to basically like issuing some bullshit apology that they didn't feel, or whatever, like, is that really the win? What ends up happening, right? Like, I think if you put yourself in the mind of somebody who's in that boat, right? You say, oh, this person behaved poorly. They either said the wrong thing, or in your case, what you're saying, they didn't say what I wanted them to say. A, how selfish. B, how myopic to think, like, for somebody who's preaching diversity and inclusion, how silly to think that there's only one school of thought, only one opinion that is valid. Like, very hypocritical in my opinion. The second thing is what you think happens, which is people are going to start behaving the right way, quote unquote, right way, the way I believe. Instead, what people do is they actually form a very bad taste in their mouth about that way, and they retreat to their inner circle where they speak their real mind there, and they just leave the public square. They just stop saying anything interesting in the public square, because why would I? The risk is too high. And so people retreat into their own filter bubbles, and you get a much worse outcome as a result of being so like such an attacker of the way people behave and the way people think online. So I think it has the opposite effect of what people want. So even if you assume, okay, this person's well-intentioned, they want people to behave a certain way and think a certain way, the way they do it by force is having the opposite effect, in my opinion.